So you're homeschooling? Or maybe you clicked on this video because you have little ones at home and you're just considering the idea of homeschooling. Whatever the case, welcome, because I am a homeschool mom of two, and also I have over 15 years of education experience as a former teacher. In this video, I'm going to share with you the 10 academia points that I focused on to get my toddlers started learning at home, and the simplest way, most probably cost-effective way to get started doing so. These things are probably going to seem basic, and really that's the goal for age-appropriate activities and learning points. The number one thing that I started teaching my kids was actually going to be the days of the week. Referencing in conversation a lot, I would say, oh, on Monday we're going to do this, or on Tuesday. But when my kids didn't even know what the days of the week were, then I felt like it was important to actually start teaching them. And I found that one of the most effective ways to be able to teach kids the days of the week is through music. But if you're not going to use music, a wall calendar is definitely one of those. So as you can see behind me, I've got two wall calendars here. One is just a basic one that I started out my kids with as toddlers, but now that I actually have a preschooler who's going to be 5 this year, I actually upgraded to the Circle Time Center so that he could have something that was more engaging for him. The second point, similarly to the days of the week, is that in conversation I would tell my kids a lot like, oh, in June we're going to do this, or in March we're going to do that. And realistically at this age, kids have no idea when June or March is actually going to occur. So with that being said, teaching kids the months of the year is giving them an opportunity to have more insight on how their life functions in that sense. So now that my kids know the days of the week and the months of the year, they are able to start talking about it, and it becomes a part of our everyday conversation. The third thing is actually going to be weather and seasons. And this is probably one of my favorite things to be able to do activities on, because the weather changes a good bit throughout the year. And obviously we go through 4 seasons. So teaching kids the weather and the seasons is very simple because you're simply using your environment. You don't have to come up with all these elaborate activities to be able to teach kids that, although you can, which is what I do, but you can definitely just go outside. Just go outside, spend time in nature, talk to your kids about the different things that occur in whatever season is actually happening now, so that your kids are learning more about their world around them. Our family actually travels about 10 months a year. So for us, teaching our kids the 50 states is a big deal because we're getting questions all the time from our kids when we're in the airport, and when we're in Ubers, and when we're in the plane, and when we're in the trains, and different things of that nature. My kids are always asking where we are, where we're going, and developing all those conversations around the different places that we're visiting. So for us, knowing the 50 states is definitely vital to our family. But if you just want to get your toddler started on states in general, then definitely start by teaching your kids simply the state where you live at. That's a great starting point. Number 5 is actually going to be letters. As a former teacher, I do have 6 years of preschool experience out of the 15 that I do have, and I have noticed that repetition is definitely vital to kids' early learning experiences. So I find that teaching kids letters is a really, really big deal, and I do that by a simple letter chart, right? So letter posters all over the wall in their playroom is definitely a good opportunity to be able to get kids familiar with those letters. But as a teacher, I actually do not teach my kids the letter names unless they just want to sing the ABCs. That's totally fine. I teach my kids the letter sounds, and I'll talk more about that in a later video. Number 6, super common, teaching your kids numbers. As your kids are getting older and learning more about their environment, those counting skills are definitely going to come up naturally, where your kids are going to want to start counting different things, or even noticing that there are more than one of an item. So like I said, going back to the environment, saving money, being simple, start counting things in your environment. So if you're getting out 2 forks for lunch, if you have 2 kids, then tell your kids, I'm getting out 2 forks for lunch, one for Johnny and one for Beth, right? So that your kids can be familiar with counting objects. And that is one of the most simple ways to be able to get started on that. But other than that, definitely don't be against those wall posters where you can put around the house and different things like that with numbers on them to start counting with your kids. All right, number 7, just like I said earlier, it's kind of going to sound like me on repeat, but definitely using the environment for things like colors. So number 7 is actually going to be teaching kids colors. And the way that I do this, the simple, most cost-effective way, is to be able to just start naming the different colors of items in our home. So what color is the couch? Oh, the couch is brown. What color is the carpet? The carpet is tan. What color do I see on the kitchen counter? And kids can start developing their ability to be able to point out different colors in their environment. Number 8, you definitely don't have to overdo this part, but this is going to be sight words. So as kids get preschool and kindergarten age, they're definitely going to be focused on sight words a lot more, but there's nothing wrong with, in my opinion, a professional opinion, with getting kids started early on recognizing different sight words in their environment. So the best way that I focus on sight words with my kids is actually going to be through books. As they get a little bit older, like right now I actually have a preschooler that I'm teaching. I actually do sight word flashcards with my older son, but I still do have a toddler at home, and I'm not on anything specific with her. She's pretty much just still learning through play in her environment. So I always just try to point out different words in books that we read together so that she can be, familiar noticing those different sight words that are out there. Number 9 is actually going to be lingual greetings. So this is definitely a thing that I choose to do with my kids. You definitely don't have to do it with yours, but if you're looking for some ideas, I would highly recommend to teach your kids how to, even if it's just one language, teach your kids how to greet people in other native languages. The reason why I've chosen to do this is because we live in a very diverse world, and I believe that teaching kids diversity at a young age helps them to be able to build that natural acceptance for people that are different than them in their world around them. I teach my kids multilingual greetings by using little picture books that will actually have English and another language. We mainly do English and Spanish, but sometimes I do English and Russian, and sometimes I do English and French. So definitely don't hesitate to utilize those books out there that are actually multilingual. It's the quickest, easiest, simplest way to get your kids familiar with other languages, even if your goal is not to have them fluent in those other languages. There's nothing wrong with knowing a few words in a language that's not yours. All right, number 10 is actually going to be having a word of the week. So this is going to be similar to having a theme of the week. So for example, if your kids are actually focusing on something like we're paying attention to birds this week, we're learning about birds this week. So you can write down the word bird or birds on a paper, or you can write it down using a dry erase marker on a board. I really love to do that with my kids, and this gets them familiar with the literacy that's attached to the things that they're actually learning. So we always try to do a word of the week. I'm also a Christian, so we try to do a Bible verse of the week. This gets our kids used to seeing those different words that are attached to the things that I'm teaching them. And of course, if you want to go a step further, you can always print out photos and different things like that to be able to go along with that word that you're discussing. So let's just say we're focusing on cars this week. I have a 4-year-old that loves cars, so I would write down the word cars on our whiteboard, and then that whole week we would focus on pointing out different types of cars, different colors of cars, different names of cars, etc., etc. So that wraps up the top 10 academia points that I focus on when I wanted to get started teaching my toddlers at home. The one thing that I want to share with you guys that is the simplest way to be able to go about all of this, besides doing all the little things that I mentioned in this video, is actually going to be books. Don't ever underestimate the power of teaching your little ones through books. Toddlers and preschoolers, even kindergartners and beyond, they all love to be able to listen to stories. Instead of coming up with all these elaborate activities to be able to teach your kids the different things that you want them to know, you can just find a book on that topic. But before you go out and spend $1 million on purchasing books for your home library, I suggest that you hear me out on the top 5 ways to be able to save money in doing so. These are 5 ways that I've been able to utilize building up a library at home without spending an enormous price tag. All right, so the number 1 way is actually going to be utilizing your local library. So with the library, you can get a loan on books, and these are books that you can check out for free. You can keep these books for 2 weeks. Sometimes libraries let you keep them longer. This is a great way to be able to build up that library without actually having to keep it at home, because obviously you have to give the books back, but pretty much being able to build up that literature for your kids so that you can teach them the different concepts that you want to. The next thing is actually going to be department stores. Believe it or not, I found books on clearance at Walmart. I found books on clearance at Ross. I found books on clearance at TJ Maxx. I found books on clearance at Burlington. So you never really know the different stores that you're shopping around at. If they sell books, try to find out a way to be able to see if they have some on clearance rack. The next thing is actually going to be utilizing thrift stores. So if you are not a thrift mama like I am, then you may not have ever thought to be able to go to the thrift store and find any books for your library. But believe it or not, I have been able to find books for as little as 5 to 10 cents at some of the thrift stores that I've shopped at. There are a ton of books at the thrift store that people that are pretty much collecting dust, let's be honest. And so if you are looking to build up your own home library, or really just use books to be able to teach your kids, this is a great place to be able to go out and source some of those that you can get. The next thing is actually going to be Amazon. I love to be able to have a folder in my Amazon account where I literally just collect all the different books into one little folder that I want to purchase for my home library. There are times where I literally just leave them in the folder and don't check out with them, just so I can see if the price will drop on them to be able to save some money. But also, this is just a great place to be able to buy books because they have so many. If you've forgotten or if you didn't even know, Amazon actually started out as a bookstore. So trust me, they got everything you need. And then last but not least is actually going to be Barnes & Noble. So I love to be able to shop around at Barnes & Nobles for different books in general. But of course, there are many times throughout the year where they have books on sale. So if you're looking to be able to save money or just have a place to be able to purchase some books, Barnes & Noble is a great option. Thank you so much for getting through this video. I am excited for this journey for all of us of educating our kids at home. If you are actually out there and you're not educating your child at home and you're just interested in this topic, or you're probably considering it for your future, I would love for you to let me know that in the comment section below. And I will see you guys next time.